Hello and welcome back to Scholastically Natalie. We are continuing with our talk about NPCs in the Let's Roll playlist, and so this is going to continue to be tagged as DM talk. So, I want to talk about too much help. And look, I have an additional icon, I have some things to be excited about, friends. I keep getting my icons from Pick Cruise. I wish I saved the links, but I always find them in these Tumblr links and then, they vanish after you open them. But I'm hoping that I will continue to remember to use this one for D&D talk, and then I can introduce a couple of my other ones for some more, because I have way too much fun with Pit Crews, and I'd like to share my weird interests with you guys. So, welcome back to the... Oops. Sorry, I was getting excited. Welcome back to the channel. If you are enjoying my D&D talks or anything else, feel free to subscribe. If you're interested in more D&D content, feel free to leave a like. And I hope you enjoy the video. So, I want to talk about the helpful NPC, which, you generally have to make one when the party is, too reckless for their own good, with needing some healing, or they might need an actual assist with knowledge of the area, or if you're, designing not your typical D&D world, or you're making your own lore, you need somebody knowledgeable about it to share this information with your players, or you as the DM have to decide, how do I want to give this information to people? Or they just need some transport, man. So the real question is, how do you decide when to help and when not to? Oh, I feel like I need to sneeze. Sorry for that. Hopefully I'll remember to cut that out. So, when do you help? So I tend to try to help when players have already made an attempt for some sort of important task, but the question to always ask yourself is, how can you restructure the task so that they don't need help? If everybody's rolling natural ones to get in through a window, what can they do so that they don't need a boost? Or, why does that task need to be done a certain way? Why can we only use this certain roll to get somewhere? So far, DMs have been pretty good about, saying, yeah, I suppose you could use this roll as long as you justify why you want to use it. But, I have encountered pushback sometimes, and I'm like, hey, can I do this thing? And sometimes they're like, nope, use this other stat, and I'm a little bit sad, because I'm not so good at the other stat. And then, of course, I also help if the players are missing something like transport, or if, they're dying and they need some healing. But then you also have to ask, do they really need it? Are you just kind of being an overly worried DM and kind of helicopter momming them? Or, you actually do prefer to be a player and you're kind of missing having an input. So, what I kind of have figured out what I prefer to do is to provide the opportunity. So I'll offer players help once or twice, and then it's up to them to take and keep it. So that goes for transport, healing, and supplies. So for instance, on healing, I did say that I made a cleric to help one of my parties, and the explicit... I had already inserted into the setting to, kind of test their morality. But then, when they started dying in the next room down from her, I had her help them. And so then it was up to them to retain her or not, because if they didn't convince her to stay, she wouldn't have. And then, of course, as luck would have it, they wanted to leave, they needed assistance leaving, and, she also needed to leave. And then also for transport, they can hire a captain for one journey, or they can try to retain that captain and gain their loyalty. Same thing for supplies. Maybe they'll just buy something, or maybe they'll work hard to build some sort of relationship. I forgot to put politically on this list, but I've offered. For one instance, I had a player who had a reputation from his people back home that they would, know him. And when he was in a different city, he ran into an NPC who was from his hometown, who provided him with the knowledge / opportunity to then go and meet with the ruler of that country. But if he hadn't taken the hint, or if he hadn't seized that opportunity, I wouldn't have given it to them again. So it's kind of like letting your players sink or swim with just tossing them a life preserver once in a while. So then a big thing for me for when not to help is that I have had some of this kind of stuff preemptively decided for us sometimes, and I'm just kind of dude, not helpful. So for instance, when you first provided a problem to the players, you've barely introduced it and they're a little bit stuck, or they're trying to think of ways to get up there, you definitely can't immediately solve it for them. And so you can give hints, but you don't want to just be oh yeah, that's definitely the way to solve it. You want that sense of maybe we shouldn't do it in there. And then of course, the biggest no-no that I've had happen for me is you don't want an NPC to solve your problems for you. I mean, sometimes you do, because then you don't have to do it. But if it's a big puzzle, if it's a big political move, you don't want to have an NPC doing something the players could have and should have done. You don't want NPCs, fighting your enemies for you. You don't want NPCs killing the big boss instead of you doing it. It does feel disempowering for the players, and I did learn that lesson when I had my players going up against my supposed big boss of the campaign, and they had the opportunity for divine intervention, and I ended up having that kill the big bad, and undoubtedly that didn't feel great for them. Instead, what I should have done is had it weakened enough that they only had to make a couple hits to kill it. And looking back on it, that is definitely what I should have done, and I 100% didn't realize that. I'm taking a sip of this giant cup of hot chocolate. So for me, I think the biggest one is autonomy. If your players have a choice, they need to be able to make it. So if they know somebody can do something, if they know somebody has the knowledge, they should be able to say, hey, you NPC, I know you know how to do this, rather than have an NPC go, oh, I can solve that problem for you. Because you want to make your players use their brains. And so then for me, again, when you provide a problem, NPCs should not be the people solving it. They can even help provide plans, they can give information, they can assist, but they shouldn't be doing it in place of a player. So if I'm making my players face this locked door and say I've given them a rogue to guide them through here because they're a scout, this door's locked with some sort of magical enchantment and they have to pick the lock, I am not going to have the rogue just be oh, I can pick that lock, don't worry. Instead of, having somebody go, hey, NPC, can you do this? Just because it gives them that sense of being in control and feeling they're making the choice, so that they feel like they're acting through the NPC instead of feeling stupid that they didn't ask the NPC to do it and that you had to do it for them. I've encountered it a couple times, and we've had the same issue with, not getting enough help. We've had giant things that we've needed to solve, and, it's the first time our DM was running this, so of course he's not gonna be 100% knowing how much or how little he needs to give us, and when we didn't connect the dots, he did give us the solution because we needed it. So I think it's also always time to consider I know the solution because I planned it. So then what are the players looking at? A great time for this is if the players are stuck, Have them tell you what they're thinking, what their current plan is, what they're trying to think of. And then you can offer them like some sort of hint or like a little nudge, rather than just assuming they haven't picked up on anything you're laying down, that they're just kind of dumb or like you need to do it for them. I definitely understand the feeling of like needing to control your game and like they're not doing this at the right pace, but you kind of have to just let it go, let it flow. Like, I feel like a large percent of a player's time should be spent talking and acting rather than having things acted upon them, you know? So like, if somebody's saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that, then they should be seeing something at the very least come of it, rather than have it be, oh, well, you guys needed to go here, so here's this person that's going to do all this stuff for you, here's this person that's going to go talk to all these people for you, here's this person that's going to do, you know, just kind of like give you a chance to negotiate with somebody, give you a chance to ask for things, so that you don't just end up feeling like you're just sitting there doing nothing. Oh no, it's something that I was thinking about, and I don't know, I'm just invested in the idea of NPC talk right now, so there should be something else coming out about NPCs next week. If you're interested, feel free to stick around, subscribe, hit a like. You can find me on my social medias at Horde of a Dice Dragon, and I hope this finds you with a good day. Scholastically Natalie,